The Final Four, Chapter 5, Malcolm McBride. 7:25 p.m. Trailing by a bucket, even the offensive-minded Malcolm is determined to clamp down on defense, denying his man the ball. "Nothing for you," Malcolm tells Rocco as he cuts him off from receiving a pass. "If I wanted to make it happen, you'd never touch the rock. You're lucky my game's about putting points on the board, or I'd be living inside your jersey." The Spartans' defense smothers the Trojans' attack. With the 35-second shot clock about to expire, Troy is forced to heave up a bad, off-balance shot. Grizzly snatches the rebound, clearing out space with a vicious swinging elbow. Then Malcolm rushes over to him to claim the ball. Stalking the sidelines, Coach Barker signals a play by raising a fist in the air. Malcolm grimaces at the sight of it, grinding his teeth in disgust. He can't believe the play isn't for him. "I wouldn't call your number either," mocks Rocco as Malcolm brings the ball up the court. "It's already too much about you. You don't have teammates. You have babysitters." Malcolm glares at Rocco's red hair and uniform and then drops his shoulder like a bull about to charge. The rest of the Spartans are following Barker's call. But halfway through the arranged set, Malcolm blows off the play, attacking Rocco one-on-one instead. Barker throws up his hands in frustration, turning his back to the court. Even if Malcolm could see him, it wouldn't have any effect. Malcolm's only focus is on finding a clear path to the basket or creating one for himself. Besides, Malcolm knows that Barker won't bench him. This is his overtime. He's the one who has carried the Spartans this far. Bursting past Rocco, Malcolm doesn't have a planned move. He's playing by touch and feel. And what comes out of him is a high, arching shot, a running teardrop floater in the lane. Crispin leaps to block it, but the ball just clears his fingertips before nestling into the net. The score is knotted 66-66 with 2:40 left in overtime. But Malcolm isn't done. He reads Crispin's disappointment at narrowly missing the block. He sees him lose concentration and gets careless with the inbound pass to Rocco. That's when Malcolm darts in front, stealing the ball. Backing off with his prize, Malcolm hesitates for a second, selling the idea to Rocco and Crispin that he'll wait for his teammates to regroup on offense. Then Malcolm heads for the hoop at full throttle, past the suckered pair. Rocco can only rake him across the arm, trying to stop an easy score, but Malcolm's momentum and strength are too much. He drags Rocco with him to the basket and scores anyway. The ref raises his arm for a foul on Rocco. Then he lashes his wrist straight down to signal the basket counts too. A wave of green rocks the Superdome, starting at the Spartans' bench. Even Coach Barker is now clapping for Malcolm, straining what's left of his voice with approval. "Big play time! Big time!" Before Malcolm heads to the foul line for a free throw, he stops in front of a TV camera beneath the basket. He stares into the lens, beating at his chest with a clenched fist. Malcolm hits himself harder and harder until he feels the sting of those blows deep inside. So they have this gameplay that the coach calls, and Malcolm, being Malcolm and always looking out for number one, ignores it, which isn't a good thing to do. And he does end up making the basket, and in fact, he's so on fire that he ends up tricking the other team and scoring again. And then this is going well for him, so yes, he ignored the coach, but the team also scored several points out of it. August 2 years and 7 months ago. The elevator doors sprang shut behind him as Malcolm turned the corner and saw it was his apartment door that the neighbors were pounding on. Soon his parents were out in the hall, too. "Malcolm, come here, baby!" shrieked his mama, shaking out both of her hands at the wrists, like that motion was the only thing keeping the rest of her body and mind together. "Stand by me. I don't want to lose sight of you, too. Not right now." And that wait for the elevator to come back again was pure torture. "This elevator is slow!" raged out Malcolm's father, slamming the button with his fist. "Come on! Where is it?" "Stop, please. You'll break it," hollered Malcolm's mama. "I need to see if my daughter is all right." Malcolm thought about jetting down the 12 flights of stairs, but deep inside, he didn't know if he could face whatever had happened out there alone. When the elevator finally arrived, Malcolm's parents, Ramona's grandparents, and some of the other neighbors all piled into it, almost on top of one another. "This can't be happening," said Malcolm's mama, hysterical. "She was just here, safe in the house. Lord, please let it be someone else, some criminal who deserves it." With every floor that passed, Malcolm felt his heart sinking further down into his shoes. Once they hit the lobby, Malcolm could hear the sickening sound of sirens twisting through the streets, getting closer. Outside, through a crowd of people, Malcolm saw EMTs kneeling beside a girl wearing a gray T-shirt. It was Trisha. The EMTs were working feverishly, pumping at her chest and giving her oxygen. Malcolm had never felt smaller or more helpless in his entire life. His father was on his knees praying in the streets. "Help her, Lord, please, I'm begging," was all his father got out before he broke down, sobbing. It was the first time Malcolm had ever seen his father cry. Then, after a few minutes, the EMTs suddenly stopped. They pulled a white sheet over Trisha's blood-stained face and lifted her lifeless body into the ambulance. That gut check Trisha had given Malcolm maybe 10 minutes ago, shoving the basketball hard into his stomach, turned into a huge empty hole that passed right through him. "Why aren't they helping my baby anymore? Why?" screamed Malcolm's mama as neighbors rushed to hold her up. Malcolm's legs became like rubber as he wavered back and forth between tears and searing anger. Without a basketball to cling to, Malcolm threw his arms around his mama. He felt an earthquake of emotions building inside her, the kind of rumbling that could have brought the Brewster Douglas houses crashing down to the ground. It was all Malcolm could do to hold on. The last chapter we had that was about Malcolm was he had just seen his sister outside. He had come home dribbling his basketball, and his sister was going out to watch her friend Ramona's kid for a few minutes while her friend Ramona ran to the store. And he and his sister had just kind of exchanged some jabs at one another like siblings do. And then he had gone upstairs to prepare for his sister's birthday dinner. And then there were gunshots. Or it's not his sister's birthday dinner. I'm sorry, his mother's birthday dinner. And then there were gunshots. And so this is a continuation of that. When the elevator doors open up, he notices everyone's outside his apartment. His parents are hysterical. They all go downstairs in the elevator and come to find out his sister was killed in a drive-by shooting. Later on, at the hospital, Malcolm and his parents were told by doctors that Trisha had been struck in the right temple by a bullet and that it had probably killed her instantly. It was the hardest thing Malcolm ever had to hear. The cops called it a stray bullet, one from a battle over which crew would run the project's most profitable drug spots, but Malcolm didn't need the police to explain anything. He walked those streets every day. In all, the cops counted the casings of 7 shots fired from a moving car. 2 of them ended up in the body of a teenage dealer on a bench 20 yards from the hydrant, where all of those kids were splashing, where Trisha was minding little Shasha. Only those bullets didn't touch the lives of Malcolm and his family. The few witnesses who weren't afraid to talk told the police that the shots came from a black Acura with tinted windows, but nobody got a good look at the shooter's face, or the car's license plate number. There was no birthday dinner that night or talk of food in Malcolm's house for days, and Malcolm couldn't remember hearing any music again until the Martin Luther King High School Crusaders marching band played "Wind Beneath My Wings" at Trisha's funeral. At the cemetery, Ramona came up from behind Malcolm and threw her arms around him. "I feel like this is all my fault," sobbed Ramona. "If I didn't ask her to mind my daughter, she'd still be here." Malcolm wanted to scream at her, "That's right. This is all on you." But he didn't. Instead, he broke free from Ramona's grasp and tossed a handful of dirt into Trisha's grave on top of her coffin. That night in her bedroom, Malcolm heard the same tut-tut sound the dirt had made every time he dropped a finger onto the skin of his sister's snare drum. He listened to it, still angry as all get out at Ramona and hating every bit of the world he could see from the window. No one was ever arrested over Trisha's death. Inside of a week, drugs were being dealt again from the same bench. Malcolm couldn't walk past without losing his temper, wanting to throw down with anyone who was doing business there. 10 days after Trisha's funeral, one of those dealers shot him in a challenging look, and Malcolm couldn't hold back anymore. "Think I'm scared of all that weak ice grill? Maybe things are going to get evened up, big time," Malcolm hollered, nearly squeezing the air out of the orange basketball between his palms. "It doesn't matter if dudes are responsible for my sister or not. Sometimes being in the wrong place is good enough." "Better stick to b-ball," the guy said in a cold voice before taking a long drag on a cigarette and blowing smoke from his nostrils. "This is no game. It's real out here. Lots of families lose more than one kid to these streets." "Yeah, maybe your mama's going to be the one crying tonight," said Malcolm, stepping forward, "'cause mine's cried enough." That's when another one of the crew put an arm around the guy, pulling him away. "Forget about it, man. Let's just go for a walk for a few," he said to his partner. "There's already too much heat. Last thing we need is another chalk outline. That's bad for our pockets." As they left, Malcolm hawked up a wad and spit it on the ground where they'd been standing. So yes, Malcolm does seem annoying at times and all out for number one, but this background information on him gives you an idea of why he is that way. He lost his sister in a drive-by shooting. He's looking out the window of the neighborhood that he lives in the projects of Detroit, and there's no hope there. There's no future there. And so we get a sense of like, we know why he works so hard in basketball, and we know why he wants to be the star and be seen and always be scoring, because he's got to make it, right? He's got to get himself out of the projects because he doesn't want to end up there after college, and he wants to get his parents out of that place as well.